Evcol.
The Mystery of Howling Woods by Simon James Collier and Richard Bates.
Oh, Norman, I was feeling all positive and optimistic that things were finally going to be okay.
But what's changed your mind?
It's still here. Whatever's in the corner. I was having so much fun helping out that I forgot about that corner and what might be lurking there.
Right then, we must put a stop to this fearful behaviour once and for all. No one can go through life being scared of what might be. We have to face up to our fears head on.
Oh, you're so brave, Norman.
As my father said to me, and his father before him, and his father before him...
I get the picture, Norman.
There are times in a bear's life when he has to take a bold leap into the unknown. It reminds me of the time everyone was frightened of the noises coming from Howling Wood.
And what did they do? I bet they didn't hide under their bedclothes.
They did to start with, but then we set about finding out what was making the eerie, ear-piercing, terrifying, bone-crunching, blood-curdling...
Norman! So in your story, did it take courage and bravery to discover what, or who, was making those noises? And did they stop?
Yes, and yes.
Well, maybe you telling me your story will make me feel brave, and I'll march right into that corner and stop all this nonsense once and for all.
Well, if you think it'll help.
The Ballad of Norman and the Howling Wood.
It was a beautiful day, the sun was shining, the grass swayed gently in the summer breeze. The bees were buzzing as they took their nectar from the flowers on the plants and trees, and everything was well in Boothby Pagnell, or so it seemed. I often come here when you're sleeping, I often come here to do my dreaming.
Norman.
It's a beautiful town with a big blue pond in the shadow of Marshmallow Mountains. The tops are snow-capped this time of year, and children play in the fountains. But there was one thing that was not quite right, or so it seemed.
To one side of the village was huge, spooky Howling Woods. Rumour had it that in it were lots of ghosts who couldn't find their way home.
I thought this story was supposed to relax me. Stop talking about ghosts and get back to Marshmallow Mountain.
If the people in the cheap seats would kindly settle down, I'll continue. A sudden sound broke the tranquility. I turned to see what the commotion was about, and high upon a grassy knoll, I could see the kissing tree had just planted a big corking kiss on an unsuspecting blackbird. You see, this tree was very old and had been there for many a year. And at the end of its branches were a huge red pair of lips. It loved kissing blackbirds. I looked into the distance and could see a cloud of dust coming straight towards me. Within a matter of seconds, a sports car pulled up. Sitting in it were my friends.
There was a wizard, a wonderful, brilliant man who knew everything that there is to know. Freddie Falk, a retired army officer who had his bravery medals there all out on show. And Francine Kettle, who couldn't talk but tooted her spout as she walked. And finally, there was Dennis, a bright blue centipede,
who wasn't always blue, but had once chewed his biro pen at school, swallowed the ink, and in an instant his whole body turned blue, and it had never faded or changed back.
Good morning, young Norman.
Morning, wizard. You all seem in a hurry.
Auntie Pam telephoned me only moments ago. She's in a complete fluster.
What's the problem?
She says the woods are howling again.
I think she's making it all up. There hasn't been a sound from Howling Wood in years.
Why don't we go there and see for ourselves? I'm sure there's a harmless explanation.
That's why we've come for your help, young Norman. Can always count on you to come up with a sensible solution. You're bold and brave.
Hold on. I can't imagine that happening.
No further interruptions, please. We must investigate those noises. Travelling faster than the speed of prune juice, we all arrived at Pam's house.
They knocked on the door, and it wasn't long before Auntie Pam stood in front of them, as white as a sheet.
Auntie Pam was usually very jolly, but today was different. This was a very worried-looking Pam.
Norman! Every day for the past week there's been a terrible howling coming from the woods. It's been getting louder and louder.
Maybe it's just the wind.
Oh, it's far more spooky and horrible than that. You must go and investigate. You're brave and bold. If anyone can help, it's you, Norman.
Oh, brother.
I agree. But before we go, we need to stop off at my house, collect a few things. Can't go off adventuring without the right equipment.
It was then that we heard the noises that had made Auntie Pam so nervous. They sent shivers down our spines. Jumping into the sports car, we zoomed to Wizard's house, collected torches, a compass, rope, some chalk to mark our path so we could find our way out again, and a cricket bat, just in case whatever was making the noises should turn nasty. We parked at the edge of Howling Wood and took our first step into the darkness.
They turned on their torches and, step by step, ventured deeper into the dark, damp, eerie wood. It was darker and scarier than any of them could have possibly imagined. Snap! All heads turned to Francine, who had trodden on a twig. As it broke, the twig's cracking sound was so loud that it echoed around the woods. Two birds, scared by the sound, broke into flight, flapping their wings and shooting skyward out of the woods.
Shh! This way.
We began to move onwards. Freddie took the lead, wanting to show everyone that despite being retired, he still had nerves of steel and nobody could make his bones quiver and quake. Dennis wanted to point out that Freddie was in fact a fork and didn't have bones, but thought it best he keep his mouth shut.
Suddenly, something caught Norman's eye. It was very faint, but there was something there, right there ahead of them. He flashed his torch and searched into the blackness. At first, there seemed to be nothing but trees. He continued to stare, and it was then that he saw them. A pair of eyes, there in the darkness.
What?
The others stopped. Francine, Freddie, Dennis, and the wizard crowded around Norman, who couldn't take his eyes off the two eyes before them. The eyes blinked, and then the silkiest voice came out of the darkness.
Hello, Norman. I have been waiting for you.
Norman and the others shone their torches, and there before them was the most beautiful tree that any of them had ever seen.
You must be Betty. Betty Bach, the movie star.
All of me, from my roots to my canopy. I am the embodiment of photosynthesis, and my sap is just boiling.
All were in awe of the tree before them. Betty lowered one of her branches, and the wizard kissed it.
I'd heard there was a Hollywood star in these woods, but always thought I was barking up the wrong tree.
Would you believe it?
Once I was in every film that they made. Once of all the scenery, I was the highest paid. I've met every movie star, I've dined on beluga caviar, but these days I no longer seem to please, 'cause they can't see the wood or the trees. I've been climbed by Greta Garbo. She really was a star, though. 20 years ago, I acted with Tom Cruise. He made me look less wooden, and although in looks a good un, he's really not the co-star I would choose. Once I was in every film that they made. The course I really have stayed. I've met every movie star, no matter who they think they are, but now they say my pollen makes them sneeze, 'cause they can't see course, I was in every film that they made. Once of all the scenery, I was the highest paid. Everything you know was Ark, knew the name of Betty Bach, and time can't take the greenness from my leaves, even if they can't see the wood for the trees.
So, do you know anything about these noises then?
I believe whatever's making such terrible sounds is just over there, in that small clearing.
Then that's where we must go.
You are such a brave bear, Norman. I can't thank you enough.
Such embellishments.
Thanking Betty, Norman, accompanied by his 4 friends, began to walk gingerly toward the clearing. As they moved in closer, they all crouched down so the thing could not see them.
Freddy took charge again. He said he'd signal for them all to jump into the clearing and take whatever was there by surprise. They waited for the right moment. It seemed like hours, but was in fact only a few seconds. And then Freddy tapped his metal arm against Francine.
Okay, I get it. We're all on edge.
Hello, I'm Norman. You see, the thing wasn't a thing at all. It was a holy, rusty old teapot.
Barbara. My name's Barbara.
Why are you making such frightening sounds?
A little obvious, don't you think? Leg caught in branch, can't get free, wind blowing through the holes in my body. It doesn't take a brainiac.
Ah, yes, of course. Silly me.
You see, I've always wanted to be a singer. I found this clearing in the woods far from everyone and came here to practice. But there are so many holes in my body. The wind just blows up and through and in and out, and I can't seem to hold a single note. And to make matters worse, I sat down and my foot became trapped.
So, there's no horrible ghastly thing here at all then?
Of course not. I have been coming here for days and haven't seen anything.
There is something here. We must leave right now.
Francine has been marking the trees with the chalk we brought. Let's just follow them and get out of here.
And everyone turned to Francine Kettle, who frantically searched in her pocket to find the chalk which must have fallen out along the path when she got scared and went out of her mind.
We're in trouble. Francine has lost the chalk and hasn't been marking our path.
Trust a kettle.
No time for blame now. We've got to get out. We've got to find out how, or else we're up the spout.
We're done for.
No, we're not. Quick, hand me the cricket bat. We need to loosen Barbara's leg. Now, Wizard, my friend, we need a speedy way out of here. Any ideas?
Always, young Norman. Everyone grab Dennis. We're going to use him as a catapult.
Dennis tried to object, but we had to get on. Drastic measures and actions were needed. In a second, Dennis turned into a catapult, and we were all centipeded. We landed on the grassy knoll by Auntie Pam's front door. And she took us in for tea, and it wasn't long before.
Thank you, Harold, you darling squirrel, you. Let's hope they won't be back in a hurry.
By now it was time, I was getting back. I knew that you soon would be waking. And if you woke up and found I wasn't there, I knew the fuss that you'd be creating. Ghosts indeed, whoever knew the range of things that can scare you. And it all happened while you were dreaming. So however scary life may be seeming, frightening things can be explained and understood. That's what I learned in the Howling Wood.
This was an Evcol Entertainment Clockwork Digital Studios original production, a part of the On Another Wavelength audio anthology series, featuring the voice talents of Miranda, Dawe, Jessica Foden, Rebecca Gilhooley, Mark Stewart, with Mitch, Howell, J.B. Newman, and David McKechnie. Music and lyrics by Richard Bates. Written, directed, and produced by Simon James Collier. Series created and co-produced by Adam Dechanel. Musical director and orchestra mix by Alex Bellamy. Recording producer and engineer Ben Robbins. Recorded at Umbrella Sound, London.